Hello, everyone, and welcome to the People Strategy Forum. Today's guest is someone you want to in your corner when the ground starts shifting beneath your feet. And let's face it, it's happening a lot these days. So, Dan Robert has spent over 20 years in leadership roles across Fortune 100s and startups alike, helping people not just manage change, but lead it. He's the kind of advisor that sees patterns most of us miss. Part strategist, part behavioral expert, and all in on making leadership more human. Dan has worked with executives, entrepreneurs, and teams in moments when clarity and confidence matter most. Now, through his company, Impactful Performance, and his Sea Change method, he's helping leaders unlock real transformation with AI firmly in the mix. So, if you're a founder or an executive that is leading with purpose in the age of algorithms, this conversation is for you. So, let's welcome Dan Roberts. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'm pleased to be here. Looking forward to having a great discussion. As we know, this is on top of everybody's mind. So looking forward to having some great dialogue.
Right. And so, Dan, tell me, before we jump into the topic here, tell me a little bit about your past and how you got into coaching leaders and helping leaders be their best selves.
Sure. If I were to go clear back a million years to college, I knew that I wanted to help people, but do it in a business environment. And so I had a double major of business and psychology, and that started off the whole thing there as I moved through my career in the different companies and roles. I always liked taking the company and people to the next level. I think maybe it's because I had ADHD. I don't know. Um, so as I progressed and my role grew, I started to take on more internal coaching roles, internal coaching and consulting, especially when the company was going through change and transition. How are we going to make this change? How can we be strategic about it? How do we prepare ourselves? All of those things you have to think about. And my role as I went towards the end of my career was helping companies go through major transformation and changes, and then actually building the change program and department. So when I got into my own coaching 3 years ago, I decided I want to focus on helping the individual as not as much as working on the company overall. They can take what we talk about to the company, but I'd rather work with the individual one-on-one using that level of experience and background that I had.
Right. Well, we're definitely at the seat of large change that's going on. And so, what are the top things that are on leadership's mind that you're working with right now?
Well, of course, the biggie right now is AI. And it's always, okay, we know we have to do it. We have to keep up with the Joneses, but we're not sure how, what, when. And that's a big question. And it's how do we prepare our people, the impact on our organization, the impact on our clients? Are we making them ready to utilize this, whether we're using it internally on our team or we're enabling our customers to use it in our product? We've got to make sure we're setting this up for success by not just throwing it in, but how we go about it strategically with a plan and structure and format.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, I was just at the World at Work conference in Orlando, and if we just think about the rapid onset of artificial intelligence, I mean, of course, we've been playing with it for many years, but it was only 2 to 3 years ago where it started really catching hold, and we can say, okay, this is a technology that's going somewhere. And I think it was just 2 years ago at this very same conference, many of the leaders there and thought leaders were talking about how do we put good governance around this? How do we control it? And so forth. And then at this time, there was a significant difference in being that now it's pervasive in every competitive software platform out there. It has some version of artificial intelligence in it, and they're thinking about how to refine it and make it better going forward. So just in a matter of 2 years, they've done what it seems like 10 years of development of what we've seen in the past. So significant change. The other thing I've realized there is that there's a lot, due to this rapid change, I'm hearing more and more comments around burnout, high stress, and just dealing with the rapid pace of staying ahead of the curve. So are you hearing a lot of those concerns in your clientele?
Absolutely. It's a double-sided sword because they're worried about understanding it and how to use it, and also what's going to happen to my job. And
Yeah.
is this going to impact me really negatively or just a little bit negatively because I got to learn how to use it and or help my client use it. So you talk about people have a lot of anxiety in their roles anyhow. And when new technology comes along, that always happens that they're going, what's in it for me? The Whiffam principle. What's it going to do to hurt me? And with AI, they just can't get their head around it. They can't get their arms around it. So that adds another level of stress. They don't know how it's going to impact them one way or the other. And they're trying to figure it out. And when they're already overwhelmed, overloaded with work, they're going, okay, now I got to try to figure out where my place is with this and where the place is for AI in our company. So it's just compounding the amount of stress and anxiety people are dealing with.
So I know, Dan, you have a specific framework that you like to take your leaders through. Can you kind of elaborate on that? What is the framework that you use to help leaders with change?
Absolutely. It's called the Sea Change Optimization Model. And the concept behind it is from my years of working with companies going through change and transformation, obviously, you got to look at it from a macro and a micro. Macro, hey, we're trying to take the company to this level. We're trying to go to this new phase or we're putting in new technology, new process, and new systems and all that. Just take the next step. But you have to get the individuals individually to go along with it as well. And one of the big challenges for individuals, and if you look at the company as a living organism, is they've got to look at it from a holistic perspective instead of saying, yep, we got to change. They have to look at it. The C change that I'm talking about is the C, SEA, is if anybody, it's funny, I talk to younger people about this and they don't remember hearing much, but older people, and I notice people in international countries, they've heard the term, hey, it's a sea change. And it's an old metaphor that means big changes. This is something that's a whole big change, not just a little bit. So when you think about that, I meant this to be one of those double meanings that SEA is an acronym that stands for S is how do you see the changes that are coming? How do you perceive them? What's your perception of them? How do you envision it? What's your ideal state? What you're looking to achieve? You have to think about it and look at it from multiple angles and perspectives instead of just saying, I got to do that. Then, excuse me, E is a big one that we worked in change management is how are people going to experience it? Are they going to be ready? Are they going to be ready, willing, and able to do that? Are they going to offer resistance? Are they going to not understand it? Do they have the training for it? Have they been communicated enough? Do they have the information? How are they going to feel about it? What emotions are going to come up as they're dealing with this? And then A's, the nitty gritty, the details, the tactical approach. How are you going to approach it? Are you going to be structured? Are you going to go by a process approach? Are you going to have very systematic approaches on how you're iteratively going to move through this? Or are you going to do a big bang approach, the old school way? And the reason I use that analogy is companies so many times through the years would focus on one or the other, not all three,
Mm.
especially technology. Technology companies and technology leaders think all about the implementation. How do we implement the technology? How do we integrate it? They don't think enough about that. It's kind of an afterthought. Well, how are people going to react to it? How well is this going to go over? What's the morale going to be like? What's the culture change going to be? How are they going to experience this? How are they going to view this overall? So when you do all three of those, you're taking a big picture, holistic view and going, this is how it's going to affect us in these three ways. And if we look at each one strategically, and I take them through a methodology of, okay, here's how you can see this different ways and how you can look at it. Okay, then let's take you through how you experience it. Here's all the different ways to experience this and position it so you or experience it positively. How are you going to approach this? Here's the best practices for this. Here's the ways that you can put actions and activities in place to set yourself up for success. So it's the idea of going, have we thought of everything, not just technically, but emotionally, mentally at the same time, mind, body, spirit kind of thing.
And then when you walk leaders through um, this methodology of way to the C approach, uh, have there been any resistance or problems with implementation? What do you typically see?
Uh, any person that's involved with change that says there's been no problems and or any coaching or consulting are lying through their teeth.
Yeah.
Um, it's like anything. A lot of times executives are very black and white and they say, I want to see the ROI. I want to see the specific outcomes and results we're going to get and know that it's going to work perfectly the first time and everything's going to be peachy keen. That's not how change works. Um, yes, so there are challenges, and the typical resistance we get is that sounds kind of big. That sounds like a lot. We got
Hmm.
to get this in and we got to get this in now. That same executive that was balking at changing things for years, when they finally realized they need to make major changes like implementing AI, then they want to do it now. They want to have it done yesterday and they want to brush it in and be able to keep up with the competition right away. And when you say, you're not ready, we got to work on your readiness. We've got to slow down to speed up. They hate that. They're
Hmm.
like, no. Let's go. Let's put this in. But what happens is, if you've ever read any surveys or statistics or done research, 75% of change transformations fail because they jumped into it and said, let's just focus on the technology, or let's just focus on this and not the others. And they have to do reworks, they have to do it over, and it ends up costing them more time, money, and resources anyhow than they would have done it right in the first place.
So let's dig into the concept of you need to slow down to speed up. So when you start to with that concept with them, what are the things that you set them on a path? What are the tactical steps that they need to take there?
Sure. First off, we say we have to create a very strong vision. And there's going to be the eye rollers, I call them, that go, okay. Um, but the reason you want to do that, and change management consulting companies will really harp on that, and I agree with it, is you don't know how to get to a destination until you know exactly where it's at.
Mm,
So when you're saying our objective in making this transformation and these changes is so we can achieve this, we in our present state, we're not quite sure what all we have in place. We're a big company. We got all kinds of moving parts and all that. You have to know exactly what you have and then know exactly what you're trying to get to. How do you go from A to B if you don't know what A is and what B is?
yeah.
The easier part is going, okay, let's take us from A to B. The harder part is going, what is our real A, the realities of where we're at? What is the exact, very specific things we're trying to achieve as a company to do for, say, for instance, implement AI?
Hmm.
When we talk about the slow down to speed up is going, okay, discovery time. Where are you exactly? Let's talk about your technology, your processes, what's your tech debt, what systems do you have in place, what integrations are you going to have challenges with, what are how are your data sets set up, how easy are you going to be able to work with AI, or is it going to be a major challenge because you got antiquated systems, bad data sets, that kind of thing. And then you go, okay, you know this. Specifically, you want to get to this, and this. So, what technology do we need to put into place? What AI integrations are going to make sense for us? And then the next part of the slow down to speed up is we got to make sure everybody's ready for this. We got to make sure they're trained, they're ready, willing, and able. meaning they're okay with it, they buy into it, they see the benefits and the value, up to the executives, to the person in the front line. Not they're hating it and fighting it the whole way. So that creates resistance, friction points, and slows down everything. And then you say, okay, last slowdown is to go, okay, do we have the support program in place? Do we have a service desk? Do we have people ready to answer millions of frequently asked questions? Have we created a portal on our website? Here's all the FAQs. Here's all the things you can expect to run into. Here's who you go to. Here's how we'll deal with it, blah, blah, blah. Because companies just go, let's implement. And then they go backwards and go, oops, people don't know what we're supposed to do with this and how they're supposed to answer these questions to the clients and all that. That's what we mean by slow down to speed up, is you're going, oh gosh, this is slow right now. I want to move faster, but we got to be good with this, because if we do this, we'll be faster later. We won't have to do it over, do reworks. So that's the idea behind the slow down to speed up.
Yeah, I love that because a lot of leaders when they go in and they face a problem, they want to get that shiny object. They want to uh, implement the system, put in the technology that is going to give them the credit that they've done that piece. But one of the things that is often you don't get credit for, and practitioners don't get credit for, is getting the data in order, managing the readiness. Those things are the unsung heroes of change management and success, right? So I think that's the hard thing to communicate and get by people for sure.
It is, and as you say, one of the executives will always look at, black and white. Let's make this happen. Let's move it quick and all that. What's our ROI? And it's not something you can easily measure, because it's the whole thing behind change management is it's the human side of change. The technical side is project management.
Hmm.
They can see that and they can put their finger on it and touch it and all that. It's just like executives when a company has to tighten their belts. What do they start to take money away from first? HR, learning and development, um, and marketing, because they can't see those like they can see financial and legal and technical. So
Yeah.
that is a harder sell. Exactly.
Well, let's talk about the human side of change because I think that like as you mentioned, we can do project management to get things implemented and change from a systematic standpoint. But humans are the ones that are the complicated ones, right? And
Exactly.
so, and I think that there's the when you start, well, just like we were just talking about AI just a few minutes ago, and its onset, people there was just a mass amount of fear, and still is. And
Yeah.
so I think that can cause a lot of resistance early on. Like for instance, I was talking about being back at from the World at Work conference, and I work with a lot of HR practitioners. Well, the first thing that they when AI came on the scene, they're saying, "Oh, artificial intelligence, how could that ever take the place of a human? Oh, we got to protect human jobs and so forth." And so there was a lot of resistance and fear around the technology, which caused lack of action. I think a lot of times. So tell us, what is the secret of change in dealing with human beings?
Yeah. The secret so many times is the Whiffam principle. What's in it for them?
Hmm.
Um, Too many times companies will talk about what's in it for the company,
Yeah.
and people will shut off and go, that just means my job's going to get harder, or my job's going to be affected to make the fat cats up top happy and rich. Um, so when we go into a company and we're talking about your communication plan, which is part of a good change management, we say the messaging has to be, yes, we're going through changes. It's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, there's going to be a change curve, but the long term, the benefits, your skill sets are going to increase. Your work is going to become easier. You're going to have more tools and resources. This will help you. And I know it seems like it's counterintuitive to ever say this is, hey, you're going to be more marketable. because you've
Yeah.
learned how to do this and all that stuff, which of course leaders at the top are like, no way. We're not going to tell employees to make it marketable for them to leave. But that's the wrong thing because employee wants to know that they're part of something good. They want to feel included in it. They want to feel they're engaged and involved with it, not that it's being thrown down at them from the ivory towers of leadership and they're just thrown into the or thrown to the wolves and they're going to make them look good above, but their job's going to be negatively impacted and there's no benefit to them. So one of the key things is always understanding the human psychology of, okay, what's in it for me? And the next part of it is making it digestible, um,
Okay. Yeah.
making it not as painful. People avoid pain. So one of the going back to the slow down to speed up is we go, okay, we're going to bring it to you in chunks. We're not going to throw it all at you and say sink or swim. We're going to support you the whole way. We're going to run into brick walls and all this kind of stuff, and we're going to run into barriers, but we're going to go through it together. You're not going to get in trouble for trying to make decisions and doing this. We're going to create a safe environment. And this is going to be something that is going to be positive, and we're going to go about this in a way that positively influences you to the best that it can, because
Mhm.
people don't want change no matter what. So you have to take that into effect and then reinforce it and not leave people, we call it the horror theater of the mind. When people don't have information and communication, they go to the worst places that they can think of.
Right. Hmm.
Too many leaders don't want to provide communication nonstop. They say, well, tell them when it's all figured out and understood perfectly and we're ready to turn it on. Wrong way to do that. Technical people a lot of times will do that because they go, we can't give them information until it's absolutely 100% correct and we're absolutely 100% ready to do it. Well, anybody that knows anything about agile methodology, it's all about going, no, let's get it out there and we'll fix and tweak and fix and tweak and reiterate and do retrospectives and get better and better and better at it. And it'll go from this many issues and problems to this many, this many. Our change curve will flatten out and you'll get even more productive than you were in the past. But it's going to be struggle at the beginning. And the other part of that, and I'll finish my long answer on that, sorry, is transparency. People want to know that you get it. It's not just about they want to know that their people up top are understanding what this is all going to entail and how it's going to impact them. They want to know that the people care and get how much this is going to put them through. Like, hey, we know if whenever we do a communication, we'd say, we know it's going to be disruptive. We know it's going to be points of confusion. You're going to hear different things from different people. And when you do that, it kind of lops off their negativity right away because you're going, we anticipate this is how you're going to respond to this, but we're going to be a step ahead of it and we're going to get through it and we're going to be okay. So then people feel like I've been included, I've been communicated to, I've been informed, they're bringing me value for myself. This isn't as painful as I've seen people do it in the past.
Well, I really wanted to talk about the communication element because I think that's where a lot of this goes wrong. You mentioned that and I think in a lot of the past elements when there's been rapid change, that's what's happened is that there's just silence. It's like leaders are afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of communicating that they don't know, and they fear that that may violate trust in them as a leader. How do you counsel leaders through this?
Yeah. You described it perfectly. That's exactly how a lot of them respond. And they don't ever want to have to say, whoops, we goofed.
Hmm.
So they hold off on providing any information until they've locked it down as absolute. We tell them, no, people will respect more. They will feel a greater connection if you go, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to be down the line. And right now we know this much. We're going to know more and more. And I promise you, we're going to get more and more informed and more experienced. And we're going to test it. And we're going to make sure we're evaluating it and analyzing it. We'll do pilots and all that. We're not going to throw it at you and expect you to have to understand and figure it all out. We wouldn't. So why would we do that to you? People want to know that the leaders are using the golden rule of, I wouldn't want to have to go through this. I'm not going to throw it on them, because too many times people say, I wonder what they'd do if they were in my role and having this thrown at them. And, the famous S rolls downhill.
Yeah.
We talk to leaders. We say, let us first off create your communications for you when it's an external consulting company, and let us start communicating right away. And they'll immediately go, we're just now talking about this. We can't communicate anything. We go, no. You start out general and you start to build the understanding that this is happening. You've got to start creating buy-in by saying, we are looking at this, we're going to test it, evaluate it, we're going to do it, because you want to get across that it's happening, but we're not going to try to do it in a way that it's super painful. We're going to try to do it in a way that makes sense to you. And we counsel them on, no, no, as much as you're fighting us on communicating, let's start communicating and let's be transparent and say, we don't know that much yet. Here's what we're looking into. Here's how we're going to get to the next step. And then we'll communicate to you on the next step. Okay, we've learned a little bit more. We know this much. We're still way far away. And people will fight that they need more communication faster. And they'll say they need more information faster, but we know from our experience that they will be a lot less resistant if you're communicating something than you leaving dead air and then suddenly hitting them with everything all at once.
Right.
We always tell them, if we do this in a gradual bite, both communication, both information, both strategy, plan, structure, all of that, and keep saying as we go along, here's a little bit more, here's a little bit more, a little bit more. People are like, wow, they're really keeping us in the loop, because that's
Hmm.
what the horror theater of the mind comes when they feel like they're not being kept in the loop.
Yes. I think it's so important to make sure that we're setting expectations for people so that they can feel like they're prepared. So I think that's a great call out. Now, the other piece that I want to talk about is how to enable our people for success. So one of the complaints that I've been hearing with AI deployment is that companies are they're being careful, as they should, in enabling AI in their organizations, but at times it's not fast enough for their people, and so it's causing people to what they, I guess, Sherm called it shadow AI, where employees are uh, they're being forced to deliver. They're under that stress to deliver more, faster, better, and the AI that they're using through their systems at work, it just is not cutting it, and or it's everybody is dealing with the same hurdle, and so what they're doing is they're going to their phone, they're finding their own, they're getting their own subscriptions to software, and are creating things on the side. So, do you have any guidance for leaders on how to manage the expectations of their people, enabling their people for success, and also being prudent enough to manage the risk on the company side?
Yeah, I totally understand that. And one of the things I've noticed a lot, it's definitely with companies that have a lot of technology people that are really technically gifted. Other companies that may not have as many technical people, they're not rushing to get the latest and greatest. And one of the things we always say when we go into companies that have more technology people is we say, we know, once again, being transparent, we know you're not going to think it's fast enough. We know that you're gonna say it's not, doesn't have enough capacity. It's always not going to be enough, the best, because the second you come up with the new technology and put it in, because you're all going to say it took too long to put in, and by the time we put it in, now we're behind the curve. We're two stages or phases behind everybody else. Well, the truth is, most of the time, everybody else is in that same spot. You may see someone else out there with something that's better, faster, but you're not seeing that they started working on this 3 years ago. They didn't just
Hmm.
start working on it a week ago and get it in faster than your company. Because somewhere along the line, when I was working in consulting, somebody would eventually say from the company, aren't we the most unorganized, disrupted, dysfunctional company you've ever worked with? And I always say, no, the company before you was, and before them, the company before them, and the company before them. It's always like this. And I'll say, and it always isn't fast enough. And you're always seeing other companies that seem to be doing it better and faster than you. And we will preach to you that yes. And the other thing, yes, you will have these frustrations. You will deal with this, but it can't be all things to all people all the time. What we have to do is make sure everybody has a seat at the table, meaning people from IT, people from internet services, people from operations, finance. They're all consistently talking and giving their input, representing their areas and saying, here's what we know is the latest and greatest that we've learned. If you're talking, say, like AI. And then the other departments can go, well, that's great, but we're behind two levels of tech debt here. We wouldn't be able to work that here because when they see that, then they might not go, why aren't we moving as fast? You have to go, everybody get on the same page. We need to be realistic about this and put a sense of urgency, the famous burning platform. But we aren't going to panic to keep up with the Joneses and to keep the as the one guy said earlier, the nerdies that want the greatest or latest and greatest to be implemented yesterday. We've got to ride that fine line, and leaders have to be able to say, "Bear with us, guys. We get it. We're moving as fast as we can, but we also promise you that we'd be providing you the best support, giving you real value, allowing you to learn it and be comfortable with it. We can't do it all." Because
Hmm.
what leaders
That's,
have a
oh, go
problem with,
ahead.
they're afraid to say that to people.
Yeah.
They're, so go ahead.
So one thing I was just going to mention is just the we talked about enablement and so forth, but I think that there is also setting people up for advancements and for instance, when we're thinking about the next step of artificial intelligence, the next thing that's coming out is thinking about, okay, well, how do we handle AI with automation and getting ready for that change. Now, one thing that you mentioned there is that, and I know there's going to be the answer to this is going to be a bit of a balance, but you said leaders need to be able to solicit and talk to people at different departments to get information, to get feedback. And sometimes we see leaders keeping the decision top, close to the top of the house. What is the right or the proper balance to where leaders should solicit feedback from the rank and file and so forth on those that are being the most impacted by that change?
Yeah, I understand first off what you mean because a lot of leaders feel that if they search for too much feedback and bring in too many parties, you'll stall, which is true, and you won't move forward. So what we talk about is going, okay, you need to have those feedback channels, you need to have SMEs involved, but you also have to set the precedent, and the expectation is, yes, we want your feedback, but we don't want constant issues, challenges, and all that without solutions. And one of the things we'd always talk about is when we would have a meeting, we are going to move forward 1%.
Hmm.
So, because the meetings would become, quite honestly, constant bitch sessions.
Yeah.
People throwing swords at it, throwing or shooting arrows at it, taking shots at it, and going, yeah, they didn't do this right, and we shouldn't have done this, and on and on and on. And it'll become that when you get certain people in the room. So we would say, okay, you can only be in the room. And part of this, if you're going to be a positive force of moving this forward, and you can create buy-in, create engagement, and keep it moving forward. So
Yeah.
when you talk about what's the fine line is, we'll bring in somebody from your group to represent you. We're not bringing all of you in. And you guys choose who you think is the best one, and they will have a voice, but they also will understand they have to be moving us forward. They can't just come to stop us constantly from going forward.
Right. Well said. Well, Dan, I know that we talked about a lot of things here in regards to change management in the era of AI. What would you like leaders listening into to walk away with on this discussion?
When I think about you talked about at the start, kind of the slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
Leaders, like anybody, feel the panic and they feel the pressure, the expectations, the keeping up with the Joneses, the market share, all those things, the stock prices, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that I would say that we've said so many times to them is give it the attention it deserves by throwing the right resources at it. And what I mean by that is create a committee
Mhm.
and say, we want people that are focused their whole time on researching AI, what the latest and greatest is, what the new improvements are, what are the best tools, how are we going to integrate this into what processes, what parts of our company. Don't do it piecemeal as an afterthought, because too many times leaders will go, okay, have somebody from technology do that because it's technology. So make sure them and pick another couple people to work on that. Well, if you're a company with $1 billion in sales, you want 50 people working on this, and you
Mm.
want them to be able to focus true resource time. Because one of the things that we would always run up against is when we were going through a big change or transformation, is the leaders would say, okay, let's do this. And we'd say, okay, we need 50 of your people to act as representatives of their business units. And they go, no problem, you got them. Then when they give them to us, we realize they only meant to have them work on this 5% of the time and do their day jobs 95% of the time.
Yeah.
We would say, no, no, 100% resourced, or at least 50%, and we know what we have to work with. So
Mm.
whenever somebody's got some big new technology that can be confusing, overwhelming, hard to understand, hard to get your arms around, you got to put focused attention with focused minds on it that can be strategic and intentional about how they're going to implement it and how they can move faster, which is what leaders want, but still be smart and strategic and intentional about it.
So for Dan, for those leaders out there that want to learn more, that would like to understand a little bit more on this topic and your thoughts on it, how can they get a hold of you and learn about your services?
Sure, thanks. Appreciate that. My email's dan@impactfulperformance.com. That's my company name. So website is impactfulperformance.com as well. Obviously, they can go on LinkedIn and they can see my profile there and connect with me through LinkedIn. Either of those methods, they can go to the website and review information about the services and fill out a form there where they can set up a discovery session where I meet with them, schedule a free strategy session. And the best way I tell people all the time is feel free to send me an email or go online and set up a time in my calendar. And I've also got the calendar on my LinkedIn profile as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for sharing your time with us today and making us all more aware about change in the age of artificial intelligence. I really appreciate the conversation.
Well, I appreciate it as well. I think it was a great conversation. I hope we created some great value for your listeners and viewers, and look forward to hearing how people can possibly benefit from some of this information. I thank you so much for your time today, Sam.
All right. Well, thank you for all those listening in. We'll catch you next week on the People Strategy Forum. Take care.
Thank you.